Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Let's talk about the Tesla Model S crash this weekend. Let's talk about what we know, what we don't know, and what the implications are for the future of self-driving and electric vehicles. First things first, if you have not yet seen it, this is the Tesla Model S that crashed into a tree in Texas this weekend, killing 2 individuals. Apparently, no one was in the driver's seat, but there was a male in the passenger seat and a male in the back seat. Both of them were between 60 or late 50s and late 60s were the ages. We do know that apparently these 2 individuals were talking to their wives about how great Tesla Autopilot was before the accident. So we do obviously not know yet if alcohol was involved. We don't know if Autopilot was even engaged, but we do know that these 2 individuals were at a house, left the house talking about how great Autopilot was, and got in this vehicle and ended up crashing into a tree. So, why, first of all, did this car burn for 4 hours? Well, this has to do with a phenomenon with batteries known as thermal runaway. This is very bad. When batteries degrade or break in a fire, their chemicals and components can mix, leading to basically fueling the fire. Now, I'm overly simplifying this example, but basically, it's almost, the way I think about it is, the more the battery breaks down, the more fuel you end up releasing, and the hotter and hotter this fire gets, which the hotter and the hotter the fire gets, the more components of the batteries break, and the more new fuel you keep adding. So it's literally just adding over and over again. It's kind of like an infinite monetization loop on YouTube, except infinite fuel and lava and pain. And I'm just making up the lava part. But anyway, it's really bad. Just think about a normal car crash. Normal car crash, if a car catches fire, fire department gets on scene. Usually it's a 2-minute event. Hose to the, to obviously the vehicle, whatever is on fire. Hose underneath the hood to kind of inject water up into the engine compartment from underneath. And generally you can put out a car fire very, very quickly, less than 2 minutes. 4 hours of dousing and water and foam for an electric vehicle is not good. Not good. I mean, first of all, it keeps fire departments on scene for way longer. But it's also, I mean, it makes the chances of survival way lower because, if there's a car fire and somebody can put it out with a fire extinguisher, that's one thing. If it keeps going, that's a problem, right? That's a big problem. So this has led Tesla stock to sell off. Obviously, because this is not only a bad signal for electric vehicles and batteries, but it is also a bad signal potentially for Autopilot. There are plenty of concerns and rumors going on, and it's very important to separate fact from fiction. Now, before I talk about potentially what happened in the crash and what we know and what we don't know, what I want to talk about is the FUD that's going around. First of all, Elon Musk tweeted this weekend, Tesla with Autopilot engaged, now approaching 10 times lower chance of an accident than the average vehicle. Okay? With this, Elon Musk tweeted a photo showing the statistics, and CNBC had a comment about this. But apparently they didn't read the statistics, which was very annoying because they're just spreading the FUD. So what they're saying here is in the first quarter with Teslas, there was 1 accident. I'm going to write this down to show it in a simple way. 1 accident. So we're going to do with Autopilot. So with AP, 1 accident for every 4.1 million miles. The more million miles per accident, the better. So you want really, really big millions of miles for every 1 accident. So with Autopilot, 1 accident per 4.19 million miles. With just advanced safety, so let's do with safety, there was 1 accident per 2.05 million miles driven. Without the safety features and without Autopilot, Tesla had an accident, or a Tesla had an accident, 1 in every 978,000 miles. And the industry standard is 1 accident for every 484,000 miles. So take a look at this, folks. When you break it down like this, you could see that with Autopilot, the car is extremely safe. Only 1 accident in 4.19 million miles. With Tesla's safety features, it's really safe. 1 accident in every 2 million miles. Without the safety features and without Autopilot, which basically means just Tesla, literally just Tesla itself, 1 accident in 798,000 miles, compared to the current average in the world of one accident in every 148,000 miles. Now, this could also include cars from like the earlier 2000s, the 90s, right? So maybe there's a little bit of an age bias there, given that Teslas are mostly newer, or most Teslas are mostly newer. But look at the FUD that CNBC added. CNBC, in a quote, and I quoted this, but honestly, the easiest thing to do is for me literally just to pull up the quote and we can listen to it. But CNBC said, which we caught on my live stream this morning, they read Elon's tweet quote, and then they kind of suggested that, oh, well, you know, you probably are going to have a safer car anyway when you have safety features, right? And they're kind of casting doubt on Tesla's safety record here a little bit. By saying, oh, maybe it's not that great because you would have that anyway. Let's listen to this. It'll make more sense. Listen to this.
Safety report. In his tweet, he says Tesla with autopilot engaged, now approaching 10 times lower chance of accident than an average vehicle. Keep in mind, any type of driver assist system means you're going to have lower accident rates than any typical vehicle that is out on the road right now where humans are involved. That's been
why are they? Yeah, so there I pause too, and I say in my live stream, like, wait a minute, why are you making that comparison? Because that's not what the actual statistic was. The statistic was not that, keep in mind, every vehicle with active safety is safer. No. The statistic is even a Tesla without active safety is safer. A Tesla with active safety is even safer, and with autopilot is almost 10 times safer, except they didn't bring that up, leading to more FUD around this Tesla crash. But let's get into what could have possibly actually happened in the crash. Why would this happen? And at what point is it good or bad for Tesla? Let's talk about that now. Here's what we do not know. We do not know whether or not autopilot was on. We believe that nobody was in the driver's seat, which implies that maybe autopilot was on, but we do not know what caused the crash. Now, there are a lot of theses and there are a lot of arguments. For example, some people argue, well, you can't turn autopilot on a residential street that doesn't have lane markings. First of all, this is incorrect. Now, I know this is incorrect because I just tested it. You can turn autopilot on if the vehicle, it looks to me, like my estimation is, it looks like the vehicle is looking for curbs. And if it can find curbs, you can turn autopilot on residential streets. There are also arguments that, hey, well, if nobody's in the driver's seat buckled up, then the car stops if it's on autopilot. This is true, but you can easily bypass this by buckling up the car seat, put the buckle on, and then sit on top of the seat, turn the car on, engage autopilot, and then get off the seat and maybe climb into the back to go, look how great the car is, right? That's very possible. Now, some people argue, well, some Teslas have weight sensors in the seats. This is true, apparently, of newer models, but not of older models. So these are important things to distinguish here. So if it is true that nobody was driving this car and it was on autopilot, which presumably it would have been turned on autopilot, otherwise nobody would have left the driver's seat. That's my guess. I mean, just trying to guess here, and this is speculation now, so I want to make very clear what's fact and what's fiction, okay? Speculation here is that somebody got in this vehicle, turned on autopilot, and then left the seat while it was in autopilot. This makes sense because I can't imagine somebody leaving the driver's seat while it's not autopilot engaged. So my belief is we need to begin the argument with the assumption that autopilot was on. Let's now say that the non-Tesla driver was in the passenger seat, that is the person who didn't own the Tesla or was not familiar with the technology, was in the passenger seat. Let's say that the driver was the one who climbed into the back after autopilot was on. Let's now say, that's speculation. We're guessing that the driver went into the back, which it really doesn't matter so much if the driver went to the back, but it could potentially matter. Now the question becomes, were the two drivers completely idle between the time they left the driver's seat and when the car hit the tree? That is, did autopilot drive this car into the tree? If autopilot was fully engaged from during the entire duration of the accident, that would be very, very bad. It would send up a lot of red flags for Tesla considering getting rid of radar, for Tesla not having LiDAR. It would send a lot of issues up. Well, it sends a lot of red flags up for Tesla. And quite frankly, whether or not autopilot was on or off, in part doesn't even matter because it's like, dude, I mean, you have features in cars that stop the car when they're about to hit something, whether or not autopilot is engaged or not. And that's because of the radar sensors or the camera sensors or whatever. Now, it was dark. Elon Musk believes that cars should only operate off vision sensors, which makes you wonder, okay, well, Elon, what happens when you get to a poorly lit road or a poorly lit area of a road and you can't see? Because maybe there are defects in the road or there's overgrowth or whatever. What happens when the human eye can't see and the cameras can't see anyway, right? So that certainly begs questions right there. See, and that's sort of an offshoot to consider here is whether or not autopilot was on, it's a problem that the car hit a non-moving object. Now, Tesla in the past has had issues with non-moving objects as well. And so this is an issue. Either way, autopilot or not, it's an issue that the car crashed into a non-moving object. Now, the biggest issue is, what if autopilot was on? Okay, well, if autopilot was on for the duration, that would be even more of an issue because now we have even more doubt in the artificial intelligence that is in the Tesla autopilot neural net. However, and this is where I kind of diverge a little bit. I believe, and this is my speculation, I want to be very clear about this, I would not be surprised if potentially the car went into a turn at a high rate of speed that was set by the driver. Maybe the driver set this to, and this is another aspect, we have to consider rates of speed. Because I'm just going to tangent here really quickly. Imagine if this Tesla hits a tree at 30 miles an hour and bursts into flames. That's not good, right? We're expecting this probably would have had to have been a high rate of speed impact certainly to immobilize both of the passengers, which is odd to say, but yes, certainly to immobilize both of the passengers. I would expect that this would probably have had to been at least a 50 to 60 mile an hour crash, at least, if not 70 to 80 miles an hour, right into a tree. We don't know though. We don't have the answer to that. So anyway, obviously, if it comes out this was a low-speed crash, bad for Tesla. If it comes out it was a high-speed crash, maybe more understandable. Anyway, because obviously anything that pins human error is going to be more desirable for Tesla as a company than Tesla getting blamed. Of course, then there's always the consideration of, well, what if there was sudden acceleration? You know, what if Tesla thought, oh, cool, you set the cruise to 90, and you know, at first it was going 30 because it saw 30 mile an hour speed limit signs. Then you got in the back. Then all of a sudden it thought the speed limit zone ended and it just goes up to cruise speed, doesn't realize a turn and drives right into a tree. Obviously also a problem. You can see how many potential questions there are here. But this is a suspicion that I have. This is my speculation. Autopilot's going well. Driver's in the driver's seat, passengers in the passenger seat, front passenger seat. Everything's going well. This is my theory. Driver engages autopilot. It makes sense that he would engage autopilot while in the driver's seat. Goes to the back of the vehicle. Go, look how great this is. This is awesome. I mean, you're at the point where you don't even have to pay attention anymore, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, the car potentially accelerates suddenly, or it goes into a turn too fast. Maybe it didn't accelerate, but it went into a turn too fast, which is a very common issue with Tesla today still. My Tesla goes into turns way too fast all the time. And I pay attention, though, when I'm driving. And I'm also in the driver's seat when I'm driving. Especially with turns. Turns, you gotta be careful. So let's say it goes into a turn too fast. And it creates a moment of panic, and this is my speculation, in the passenger. And the passenger says, I'm getting nervous. Passenger potentially reaches over to the wheel, my speculation, pulls the wheel just a little bit, just enough to disengage autopilot. What happens now? Now the car's going at a high rate of speed with somebody not in the driver's seat. And if you try to control a wheel from the side like this, it's very easy to overcorrect because you don't have both hands on the wheel and you don't have one hand in a normal natural position. You're in a very weird position. Like any movement like this could be a really big jerk. And potentially the overtaking by the passengers, my guess, of a steering wheel could potentially have led the car to thought, okay, human in control, human in full control, and that wheel gets overcorrected way too fast to where even if Tesla safety systems could have engaged by slowing the car because it's like, oh crap, there's all of a sudden a tree here, potentially the human error is what led this vehicle to go right into a tree because the passenger was freaked out because, well, the driver's not in driver's seat and it's like, oh my gosh, yank, oops, crash into tree. That That's my theory on what happened. In my opinion, anything that deviates from my theory of what happens is worse for Tesla. If my theory is correct, it's best case scenario for Tesla. It's human error for leaving driver's seat, human error for actually taking over the mechanics of the car and disengaging autopilot and creating a deadly event. My take. Anything else is bad. Tesla not an autopilot crashing into a tree? Bad, because come on, it's supposed to stop. If there's an object, it's supposed to stop. Why did it not see the object? Tesla and autopilot and crashes? Even worse. Tesla sudden acceleration? Bad too. My speculation, though, is for this kind of scenario to have happened, there would have probably had to have been some kind of disengage of the autopilot previous to the crash. However, because of this and the thermal runaway, we do have a Tesla sell-off today. Tesla today is down. Tesla is down about 4% at the time of this recording. We're at about $709 per share. We're not as low as we did go earlier in the day. Earlier in the day, we did hit a low of $691.85 per share. We are again currently at 709, which is not highs of the days. We did hit about 716, and we opened at about 725. So there's definitely some pain in Tesla stock, but Tesla is recovering. We are seeing some of the other EV manufacturers, at least, well, they started their day up. See, NIO started its day up about 3 or 4% on this news, but has since rotated to the downside, now down 1.64%. CCIV was also positive at the start of the day and is now down 2.2%. So it kind of shows you there's a lot of drama going on right now in the electric vehicle space, and this is coming on top of a very pained electric vehicle space already. It's already been very pained. It's been a very stressed market, to say the least. But these are my thoughts on potentially what happened with the Tesla accident. We will not know what's to blame until this investigation is complete, and I'm very curious to know how this investigation will come out. I think one of the first and foremost priority is figuring out, was anybody in the driver's seat? And if nobody was in the driver's seat, one of the things that potentially could be determined early is, were there any brake marks? Were there any signs that the vehicle actually tried to slow? If there were signs that the vehicle tried to slow, that might be an indication of the Tesla system actually functioning, again, depending on what kind of human interaction we had there. But I think the investigation, it's going to take many months before we have the ultimate results of that. And I'm just looking at a few different pictures, and from the scene photos, it's very difficult to see any kind of even trail markings. Certainly the fire doesn't help, and the car could have spun around off a tree anyway. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you found this helpful, consider sharing the video. If you like my perspective, consider checking out the program's link down below. And folks, see you in the next video.